Hello and welcome to our lesson today on comparing decimals. Comparing decimals is a pretty easy method for you to figure out the similarities or the differences in decimal points. I always like to show my students the T-chart method because I feel like it's the easiest way for them to compare. And with that, basically if you can write the letter T and if you can order your numbers from least to greatest, meaning from the lowest number to the highest number, or the highest number to the lowest number, greatest to least. If you can do those two things, then you can compare decimals and figure out which is the higher decimal and which is the lower one. So I have already drawn a horizontal line, and I'm gonna of course draw a vertical line to make my T. The reason why we call that the T chart is because we are creating a T and it is a chart. The first thing you have to do is rewrite the numbers. In this case, there are 4 numbers, but the most important thing you have to remember is the decimal point goes on the up and down, which is your vertical line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the decimal point in the direct center. I see that there are 4 different numbers, so I'm going to put 4 different decimal points on the vertical line. When I do that, then all I have to do basically now is copy these numbers from the either lowest to highest, meaning least to greatest, or from highest to lowest, which is greatest to least. And I'm going to go with the least to greatest. So when I look up here at the numbers, I'm going to rewrite all of my 87s on the left side of the decimal point. 87 here, 87 there, 87 there, and 87 here. Now I need to look at all 4 numbers and right after the decimal point, which is the lowest number. I have after the first decimal point of 87.054, I have a 0.054, which is basically 54. The next one is 0.045, which is 45. The next one is 0.405, which is 405. And the last one is 0.450. So when I look at them, the lowest one that I see is the 45. And now I'm going to rewrite the entire decimal number as 87.045. And I'm going to mark it out up top. That lets me know I only have 3 that I'm working with now. The next number in line from least to greatest would be the 54. So I need to write my 054. And cross it out. The very next one it's either the 405 or 450. And we all know that 405 is lower than 450. Oh, sorry about that. Okay. Now you can clearly see if you're looking from top to bottom with the 87s, which are to the left of the decimal point, they're all equal. If you look to the right, you can clearly see if you're putting them in order from least to greatest, the 45 is the lowest number, and then you have 54. The next lowest number is 405, and then your 450. And I'm crossing those 2 out, and they are in order from least to greatest. Let's try another one. I'm making my vertical line to complete the letter T and create that T chart. When I'm looking at the numbers in front of my decimal point, I see that they are all 25. I can go ahead and place my 4 decimal points because there are 4 decimal numbers. And I can go ahead and write 25 4 times. Once you see that those numbers are the same, all you're looking at are the numbers to the right of the decimal point, the digits to the right of the decimal point. Putting them, this time we can go from greatest to least. So I have a 489, I have a 498, a 473, and a 980. And we can clearly see that the 980 is the largest number. So I need to put my 980 after the decimal point and cross that one out. Right next under that would be the 498. And I'll cross that one out. Now we have a choice of 489 or 473. And remember, we're going from greatest to least. So the next number would be 489. And last but not least, the 473. When you're looking at it on the T chart and you're looking from top to bottom, you can clearly see that we have placed these decimal numbers in order from greatest to least, which is from the highest number to the lowest number. A lot of times when you see numbers that need to be compared, decimal numbers that need to be compared, you'll see one number, you'll see a blank line, and then another number, one on the left and one on the right. And you'll have to put your greater than, less than, or equal symbol. You can do the same thing, your T chart. I see here that we have two numbers, of course, so we'll need 2 decimal points on our T chart. And I see before the decimal point we have the number 3 and we have another 3. Now I need to see which is the lower and which is the higher. I can see a 452 and I see a 542 after the decimal point in the first number. I'm going to go with least to greatest. So my lowest number would be 452 first, and then 542 second. Since we know that the 542 is larger than the 452, then 3.542 is greater than 3.452. Let's go to the next problem. In this one, I just drew the T chart, but I noticed that in front of my decimal points, I have an 18 and a 19. And I believe we all know that 19 is greater. So 19, of course, would get the greater symbol. In that case, you don't even have to worry about what comes after the decimal points in those two numbers, because we know that 19 is greater than 18. In the very next one, I do see that we have 760 in front of our decimal point. So I'm placing my decimal points, and they are lined up on the vertical line. And now I'm rewriting my 760. Right after my decimal point on the left side, I see a 0.01. And right after my decimal point on the right side, I see a 0.10. We all know that 1 is lower than 10, which means our greater number is 760.10. And the last one, I see both of the numbers in front of the decimal point are 5. So we do have a comparison here, and we need to go further than just the 5. We need to look at the digits to the right of our decimal point. Here I see a 232 on the left, and I see a 232 on the right, which means they are equal. So we can basically just put our equal symbol, because neither is greater than the other. They are indeed equal. Now at the very top of your page, you have 4 decimal numbers. Once again, I'm going to draw my vertical line so that I can create a T chart. I have my T chart created, and now I have 4 decimal numbers, which means I need 4 decimal points on the vertical line of the T chart so that I can compare to see what comes as the lowest number, then the next number, all the way to the greatest number. I will write my 15s to the left of the decimal point. And now we need to focus on what digits come to the right of our decimal points. And I see a 0.023. I see a 0.203. I see a 0.230. And that should have been a decimal point up there instead of a comma. And so that would be 15.302. I would say the 0.23 because 23 is the lowest number. And now the next number out of 203, remember we're only focusing on the number to the right of our decimal point. I see a 203, I see a 230, and I see a 302. So the next lowest number would be 203. And after that, 230. And after that, 302. And now we have placed our decimal numbers in order from least to greatest, which is our lowest number, to the highest number. And at the bottom of the page, we have two different sets of numbers. I see that both of them, the one on the left, I see the numbers on the left and right are an 11, which are in front of the decimal point. So now I need to focus on what comes after that decimal point. I see a 409 and a 490. Well, we know that 409 is lower than the 490. So 11.409 is less than 11.490. And the last one, we do have a 6.002. We have on the right side, we have a 6.012. I'm writing my sixes and I'm writing my decimal points. Our lowest number would be the 2, and our highest number would be the 12. So I'm writing the 2 first and then the 12, which means the way this would be read is 6.002 is less than 6.012. And that concludes our lesson on comparing decimals.